6 o'clock, we'll get this meeting started. Today is June 20th. We're at the Addison Township Board meeting. We're located at 1440 Rochester Road. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Phil, you're a veteran. Could you please start? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please stay standing. Dear Lord, now guide this board with your infinite wisdom and the audience as well. In the Lord's name we pray, amen.
Okay, once again, welcome. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Eric Sent.
I'm sorry?
Eric Sent.
Here.
Linda Garrick.
Present.
Ed Brakefield.
Aye.
John Beamer.
Present.
Lori Fisher.
Here.
Bennett present. Supervisor Pearson.
Here, all accounted for, right? Okay, any announcements?
Yes, I have two. On June 29th, the Oakland County Clerk will be available here from 10 to 11:30 a.m. To register to vote, for marriage licenses, for almost just about everything the clerk's office would do. And then also I wanted to bring up, and there are flyers in the back, Linda actually started this. She contacted Social Security, and there's going to be a Social Security seminar Thursday, June 30th. There's going to be two sessions, one's at 3 and one's at 6:30. So this sounds pretty interesting. That's it.
Okay, any petitions?
No.
No petitions? Department reports, as usual, are available in my office. Anybody wants them, see myself or Sherry. Approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second that.
Any discussion? No discussion? Can we have roll call, please?
Linda Garrick.
Yes.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
Eric Sent.
Yes.
John Beamer.
Aye.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, the consent agenda.
Before the board this evening is a consent agenda consisting of the April 18th, 2016 minutes, bills as paid for April and May, MTA dues, SEMCOG dues, and approval for Addison Oaks fireworks display on July 1st, 2016.
Okay, any comments? No comments?
I'll make a motion to approve that if the supervisor is so inclined.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any further comments? Not hearing any. Could we have roll call on that, please?
John Beamer.
Aye.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
Linda Garrick.
Yes.
Eric Sent.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, Special Assessment District, public hearing with the resolutions. 2A is the SAD, the Special Assessment District for Lakeview Drive, Grampian Court, and Kennard Private Roads. This is the public hearing, the SAD for Lakeview, Grampian, and Kennard Private Road. The township received a petition for a special assessment district for Lakeview, Grampian, and Kennard, signed by over 50% of the record owners and 50% of the total frontage. The maintenance includes items related to snow removal, grading, dust control with a 5% collection fee. The district is proposed to be established for 5 years at a rate of $100 per parcel. Today is the very first public hearing of this. That requires 2 public hearings. I'd like to open up the public hearing at 6:04. At this time, if you'd like to speak, please come forward to the podium, state your name, and if you have anything to state about this, please let us know. This is in reference to the SAD on road maintenance for Lakeview, Grampian, and Kennard. Once again, yes, if you'd like to speak.
My name is Scott Johnson. I live on Lakeview Drive, and I'm a 40-year resident of the lake. And I am here to speak towards the benefit of having this assessment continue. I am a licensed realtor, have been since 1995. Have actually sold and listed more houses on this lake than any others probably combined. I'm very busy in the North Oakland County area. And as a realtor, first of all, the damage that I feel, my opinion is, professional opinion, is the damage that this would cause to our lake, particularly the East Basin and the canal network that leads to and from both basins. The condition of that lake has changed so much since I first moved there. It was clear, clean, beautiful water at that time. My kids, friends, we all swam. Then we went through a period of time where the weed overgrowth was just...
Well, this one is for the road maintenance of Lakeview, Grampian, and Kennard. I have, yours is coming right up, so so there'll be no secret what you're gonna say, okay? But this is for the Lakeview, Grampian, and Kennard. Does anybody have anything to, in reference to the road maintenance?
Not me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then I'd like to close the meeting at 18:06, or that would be 6:06. Okay, the resolution authorizing the SAD, there's no action required by the board concerning the hearing, but if the board would like to accept the SAD as requested by the residents, a motion is in order to move the resolution. Do we have any motions?
I would make the motion to,
We have one,
While we were, can we have any more discussion on it for the moment?
well, I closed the hearing, but if you would like, this is on the maintenance of $100 on Kennard.
Correct. Okay.
Would you have to reopen it?
Well, I'll reopen it, or
It's a
reopen,
real simple clerical matter.
yes.
In the tax roll, on the last SAD that went around, there was a Sidwell that was missed. I'd like to be sure it gets included in this roll. That would be 0531453002. It's a vacant lot.
it
Okay,
is on here, it's the second one.
Is it on there?
Clarifying 0531452002.
453.
Wait, 453002.
Oh, it's the number 5, is that?
Yeah. But it,
is it on here?
0531453002.
It's on there. It's a blank vacant
Charles
lot.
there might be,
It's owned by Cody.
Yes.
There's no address? It's
Yeah,
vacant?
it's on there.
Okay. I am erred then. I thought.
You just want to make sure, that's good.
It was missed.
That's fine, well, make sure it's on there then.
but
Then we'll-
one question with
16?
regards to the gentleman's comment. This is the petition, and does it get sent out with the Sidwells on it, if you will, or the lots? Or do...
It's on there, which one
No,
is
I
it?
know, I see it's on there, but does it get sent out with those on, is the question I'm asking.
Does yours show it on your, did you get a copy of the petition at all?
I have to defer to Richard for that.
So who adds what's in parcel ID to this, is my question.
The petitioner puts those in, but they are given information onto which parcels to get, so it theoretically it is possible that it wasn't on the last one and it's on this one.
Okay, that's, I'm just trying to
I'd
make sure
have
the circle's complete, if you
Go
will.
back and look, or sometimes over time we have combinations of parcels or splits of parcels,
Yeah,
so
I'm-
that does happen as well.
Okay,
Thank you for the indulgence.
we'll close the hearing at 6:08 then now.
What time was it reopened, 6:07?
6:07 and closed at 6:08. Okay, like I said, there is no action required at this time, but if you'd like to make a motion to move the resolution,
Well, if everything's in order, I would make the motion to establish a special assessment district for Lakeview, Grampian, and Kennard private roads.
I'll second it.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Could we have roll call, please?
John Beamer.
Aye.
Eric Step.
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Roy Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, the resolution is so moved. We'll move on to item 2B, is the SAD for the Lake District known as Indian Lake Improvement. The township received a petition for a special assessment district request for a lake district known as Indian Lake Improvement. The petition was signed by more than 50% of the record property owners and more than 50% of the total land area. The maintenance may include items related to improvements, maintaining the existing dam, dike, and control of the aquatic weeds and plants. The district is proposed to be established for 5 years at a rate of $155 per riparian parcel and $50 per non-riparian parcel with a 5% collection fees. This is the first public hearing of the required 2 hearings, and I'd like to open up the public hearing at 6:10. If you have something to state concerning this SAD, please come forward and state your name
Up north.
We'll just say, we'll just say ditto, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, I've come to speak as a resident and as a professional realtor. I don't want to speak to the science of this because it is irrefutable. But as a resident, as I stated before, when I first moved out, I was a certified scuba diver. We would scuba dive in front of my house and down the canals. We could swim there without any problems at all. Then this slowly just turned into a quasi-swamp kind of look. And it has been a debate on this lake for as long as I can remember. But we have finally found something that is taking care of these things. A new family moved in 2 years ago. I can see them from my deck. They're out in the lake. They're swimming. The water's clean. Yeah, it's not as deep as it used to be, but most of our lakes and canals aren't any longer in the state. So that said, I support having this passed. As a real estate agent, however, I will take an estimate, an opinion, that on the west basin of this lake, which is where the minority of the houses are, and it's more open water, property values, if the right side east basin were allowed to deteriorate to a point where you really don't want to swim in it or you can't boat in it, I'd say a very conservative estimate on western basin would be about a 10% drop in the property value right from the get-go. The east basin, our values would plummet, of course, because you can't boat, you can't swim, it's bug infested, and it would be not livable. So that's where I stand on this. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, what I'd like to know, you're for the removal of the
Yes.
weeds
I'm
and...
for the removal of weeds.
Okay, so that's what we're here for. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Oh, yes. I'm Gary Ritzinger. I live at 31 Lakeview Drive. What is the new SAD? What year is it began? 2017?
Are you for the other SAD
I'm
on
for the weed
Lakeview?
treatment.
For the weed treatment?
What's called lake improvement something?
This is Indian Lake.
Yes.
It's 216. It starts in 216 through...
Through 220.
This year through 220. 216
So
through 220.
2016 through
It's in effect for
2020.
right now. Do you think we have an SAD for our lake right now?
It's based on the tax collection year.
Oakland Township says there's no SAD there.
Okay.
And that we shouldn't, DNR's told us. I have a statement that I wrote. I mailed this to you.
I have a copy of
Do
it.
I have to read it again, or?
But you can, if you want, if you want to make it public, but I'd see that you feel that the chemicals is harming the water.
I should probably read it myself. The ongoing chemical weed treatment of Indian Lake is accelerating eutrophication of the lake and compromising the quality of life on the lake. The treatment should be stopped altogether, or at least the lake should be mapped by the weed treatment contractor to target the areas where application is most needed. Our lake's water quality has changed since the onset of chemical weed treatment in 1994. The lake is more turbid than it ever has been. The cool, spring-fed pockets, water down below the surface of the lake seem to be disappearing. When chemically treated weeds die, the decaying process robs our lake water of dissolved oxygen. Our water lilies, lily pads, cattails, and water hyacinth are being eradicated. When we kill off native plant life, Phragmites take over. The fishery has also been affected. The weed beds where the fish hide and feed from are now dead and lying on the bottom of the lake. I think we also need a comprehensive testing program for our septic systems, especially for riparian residents. The white soapy foam that accumulates along the shoreline is evidence of household pollutants are seeping into the lake. We as a neighborhood need to identify which septic systems are not functioning properly. Septic system discharge entering the lake fertilizes the weeds and causes excessive weed growth. Then we chemically treat the weeds and they die and release all their stored up nutrients into the water, creating an algae bloom. Then we treat again for the algae bloom. It's a vicious circle and our beautiful natural resources being destroyed. In addition, many property owners treat their lawns and gardens with fertilizers and herbicides. I've seen fertilizer, herbicide application contractors apply chemicals right before a rainstorm. Most homes are built on hillsides, so these chemicals also end up in the lake, furthering the runoff, furthering the eutrophication process. At the Indian Lake Improvement Association Summer 2014 meeting, I volunteered to help circulate SAD petitions for lake weed control. I stated to the Addison officers that my intent in volunteering was to discuss with property owners the detrimental effects chemical treatment has had on our lake. When the petition was circulated, I was not asked to help, nor was I asked to sign the petition. At the May 1, 2016 ILA meeting, President Justin Gilliam extrapolated that all residents have a say in the weed treatment program. When I stated I volunteered to help with the petitions and was never approached for help and did not even see the petition, membership's chair, Scott Baker, stated, "You must not have been home." When I asked why he did not call, Baker said, "Because you were going to ask people to not sign the petition." When the chemical weed treatment was first introduced on Indian Lake, we established a lake board to handle the program. The lake board no longer exists, and the ILIA officers have taken it upon themselves to administer the program. ILIA was originally established to maintain and improve private beach property on Lakeview Drive, lot number 51. All other activities, such as lake weed treatment, dam renovation, lake drawdown and cleanup, should not fall under the auspices of ILIA. These projects should be handled by a separate lake board. The line of demarcation between the administrative bodies needs to be reestablished. I completely support working together with the neighbors to protect and preserve our lake, but ILIA officers and board have become too powerful. When a resident is told in a public forum his help is not needed because he does not agree with the board's viewpoint, or when a resident who does not want chemical weed treatment on his shoreline is told to lawyer up, we need to alleviate the situation. The residents were told at the May 1, 2016 ILA meeting that anyone who runs their boat on the day lily pads are being treated, thereby washing the herbicide off the plants, could have legal action taken against them. I think the weed treatment SAD for 2016 has elapsed. Doyle Brunson, MD, EQ, environmental engineer, stated to an ILA resident in May 2016 that we cannot carry over from a lapsed SAD. There shouldn't be any money carried over from year to year. ILA President Gilliam has on at least 2 occasions asked the members not to contact the MDEQ. Gilliam, in one instance, stated that we are drawing attention to our lake. My parents bought the property in Indian Lake in 1953 and built in 1959. There have been many changes to the area since, as expected. The chemical weed treatment has caused more harm to the lake than anything I've ever seen before. If at all possible, I ask the township to do anything in its power to correct this situation. I think we need your help. My concern is the weed treatment program has become too large for us to handle on our own.
Thank you.
Kevin, did you get the photos that I
Yes. This is just a public hearing. We do not make any decisions on this. This is what, we just let people speak and we listen. The SAD is your decision, it's your SAD. So if anybody else has anything else to say, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Patricia McPherson, and I live at 81 Lakeview Drive. And like Gary, I've been opposed to the SAD, to the chemical treatment. I agree, I'm not going to go over everything that Gary did, but I looked up an article, Aquatic Special Assessment Districts, Mass Confusion, and it suggests that when there's 2 townships working together like we do with Oakland, that there should be a statutory lake board handling this separately. It shouldn't be under ILIA. Their job is to maintain the beach lot, and that's it. So I think that would really help. Maybe they could target it a little bit more. I also read under MDEQ, because I'm the one who contacted them and talked to Doyle Brunson, that we're supposed to get a map of everything that's being treated. That hasn't happened. I don't really know where it's going. He is the one who said that if the SAD expired December 2015, it doesn't carry over, no money should carry over. Residents at this point will have to band together and get permitting. And he sent me a link, each resident would have to in the absence of the SAD. And so I think the last two treatments have been done, let's see, 5/19 and 6/9 without any permitting right now. In the meeting, Scott Baker said, we don't need the SAD, and that just isn't true. We do need the SAD, okay, or there has to be permits. Like Gary said, I'm willing to work too, but any of us who oppose it or have any suggestions, I've been met with cussing. Again, Bob Shabir back here was told to lawyer up because the board took out a contract to treat his private property without his permission. There's just so many incidences happening, threatening a lawsuit against people who drive their boats on weed treatment day. And the only notice we got was an email, and some people don't look, I don't think, they must not. And I did see the person riding their boat, but I couldn't see it that far. I couldn't identify the boat. But anyway, I just think that it's the SADs, and I brought enough copies. I think I have 3 extra about the intricacies of the SAD, and I think it's just too much for the ILIA. That again, it should be a separate statutory lake board, so we don't run into these issues. So, and besides, there's other issues that I feel like riparian residents pay $155, non-riparian pay $55, and it's kind of, for example, we maintain our lot, don't fertilize, take care of it, we don't want the treatment, but non-riparian have an equal vote as if they're on the lake, and I don't really think that's fair. I know it's an assessment, not taxation, so I find that unfair. But I'm not sure. That must just be how they do it. I don't know. But I think that we should get more of a say. We're on the lake. So, and of course, the other objection, just personally, glyphosate is one of the ingredients. That's the active ingredient in Roundup, and they put it in the lake. And I'm just real uncomfortable with that, swimming in it, ears, nose, the kids swimming in it. I just think it's so strong to put in the lake and just not necessary. It's just lily pads and some weeds. It's a lake. It's not a pool. So with that in mind, I'm just asking that we not do the SAD in the same way this next 5 years. We should do something different. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like the article?
We could get that right after, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have to speak?
I'm Bill Deneen, for those of you that don't know. I've lived in my house, which borders Indian Lake. I'm on actually Prince Lake for 34 years. And some of the water from Indian Lake runs over the dam and goes into Prince Lake. So when the water's flowing over the dam, it's a wonderful thing, it's beautiful, it sounds great. But eventually, due to the summer, the water stops flowing, the springs aren't enough to keep the lake level high, and there's no water coming over the dam. So when there's no water moving, the property that's immediately in front of my house on the lake becomes so congested with weeds and algae, and you can't even paddle your canoe through it. We've tried. So theoretically, there's no weed treatment water coming over the dam because there's no water coming over the dam. So I know what it's like to live on a congested, natural, spring-fed lake. You can't do anything. You can't even cast a fishing line out there without it getting snagged on the lily pads and all that stuff. So I've got a question for all you folks. How many drink bottled water? You guys drink bottled water? Raise your hand.
Exclusively?
Pretty much, yeah. How many of you drink the well water? Almost everyone. So do I. When's the last time you had your well water tested?
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
How did it turn out?
Fine.
Fine. So, for all those folks that are not wanting to swim in the lake, and they're essentially bathing in well water, drinking it, bathing in it, cooking with it, eating it, drinking it. So, if the water in the wells are fine, what's all the hubbub about chemicals going in the lake? I mean, that lake's 80 feet deep in some places. There's got to be some kind of transference to groundwater, I don't know. And the other thing I don't know is anything about the legality and technical aspects of the SAD and the ILAA. We need a lawyer here on the board to sort this out, because we have an SAD or we don't. Who knows? I don't know. It's confusing. So I have no clue. But that was my job.
Position.
Okay. Do we have anybody new who would like to speak? We've already heard we need somebody new.
Hi, my name is Roger Maxwell. I'm a 25-year resident on the lake. I'm also an elected official for the Indian Lake Improvement Association. I'm the vice president. They asked me to join, and they voted for me to join. The last 3 SADs I participated in getting the signatures for. I am for the weed treatment. I do live on the East Basin, and there were times on the East Basin where I could not move my boat at all. In fact, I had to basically walk my boat over to some launch to get the boat out of the weeds because it was useless for that particular summer. The last few years have been very, very good for the water quality on the lake when it comes to the weeds. I can probably address some of the questions that were brought up because I do participate in the board meetings for the Indian Lake Improvement Association. I will say this, the reason why we have the Indian Lake Improvement Association is because the Lake Board decided to dissolve and turn those responsibilities over to the Indian Lake Improvement Association, and that's why we do what we do. Another part that has kind of been glossed over here is we have some invasive species on our lake now that we have been trying to take care of through Save and Lake Services, which is also the services that are contracted out by the state of Michigan. So we're very careful with who we use, and we do try to keep track of what chemicals they do put in the water. We did try to treat some of the invasive species over the last several years, and some of the residents that were concerned about the treatment tried to defeat those purposes. And so there was some discussion upon that, so much so that we as the board decided we would try to contact the DNR ourselves and maybe get the DNR to come in here and help eradicate these invasive species. I do have some aerial photos when I first moved in of the boundaries of the lake compared to what they are now. And the lake has significantly shrunk because of Eurasian milfoil and the Phragmites, which are both invasive species. And the state of Michigan is doing their darndest to try to eliminate those from all inland lakes. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
How does the, I'm sorry.
No, this is just where we listen. This is an essay. See, this is just, we're listening right now, okay? We're not going to have conversation back and forth. All we want to do is hear what everybody has to say about the SAD.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mark Bartholomew. I live at 345 Ridgemont. Been there for 15 years. Past president of the board, so I've gone through this quite a bit. We had past weed treatment folks that were not doing the proper job, and because of that, the East Basin got completely choked out for an entire year, which was the year Roger was talking about. He couldn't use his boat. Since then, switching to Saban, we've had I think it's been 2, maybe 3 years of just great treatment, and the water quality has been much better. There was a while there that we swim in front of our house all the time. We couldn't do that because you're constantly getting weeds circling around your feet. So I'm just saying, from the past, if we don't do this SAD does not go forward, I will no longer be living on a lake. I will be living on a swamp, which I do not want to do. So yes, I am for this.
Okay, anybody, any new?
Yeah. Okay, my name's Don King. I live at 162 Lakeview. I'm a non-riparian owner. I have lived here for 32 years, and I have a strong interest in the lake since I do not live on the lake. I have served on the board for 20 of my 32 years here in some capacity, either as a trustee, vice president, president, and then back to a trustee again now. 25 years ago, when Michigan created a law that said all the dams had to be inspected every 5 years, is when we created the first SAD. And at that time, we included weed treatment program along with the dam maintenance. The dam has been repaired as of 2011. However, it still requires periodic maintenance. The weed treatment is an ongoing effort. In past years, we had a different company that didn't do a satisfactory job. So 5, 6 years ago now, we hired Savin Services, and they have done an excellent job for us. The lake is the best now it's ever been, and it still is in need of help. There's a lot of discussion about the East Basin because it's shallow, has a tremendous weed growth problem. And I don't think anybody disputes that for the East Basin. The West Basin, however, is a deeper basin, but should not be exempt from the weed control program because the perimeter of the lake, the north end, both northwest and northeast corners, have weed growth problems. The southeast and southwest corners also have weed growth problems. There are a couple neighbors who are opposed to the program because they like to swim in front of their house, and to that I say the rest of us would all like that same privilege. Therefore, we need weed treatment. As for the ILIA Improvement Organization being the administrators of the SAD, that came about from the early days of its origination, and there has never been any volunteerism to come forward and attempt to manage that. For those who have been interested in weed treatment, I've invited them to come join the board so that they would be involved in the discussions, and that is how they get in on the conversations. Let's see. As far as the company that's doing the lake treatment now, Saban, they do have indeed a 2016 permit to do the weed application program. They have in the permit process, they provide maps of the lakes with what weeds are targeted and what treatments will be applied. What was the word, lake board, is a different legal definition, and we have talked about it several times over the years, and the lake board is a government entity of which we have always declined to go in that direction for favor of local control on the lake. As far as the cost distribution, those who live on the water obviously get the greatest benefit from having a clean, pristine lake. Those of us, myself, who do not live on the water, definitely get a benefit from having a clean, navigable waterway. And I will stop with that. I'm very much in favor of this SAD. Thank you.
Anybody else new? Yes.
My name is Phil Dutton. I live at 90 Lakeview, and I've been there for 35 years. I tell people that's where you go to die. Anyway, it's a beautiful place, and I'd like to say that there's more wildlife now than there has been at any time since I've been there. More birds, more critters, you name it, they're there. And I don't think they would be if, the lake was polluted and stopped up. I used to cruise through the canals with a little 3-horsepower engine. Now it's hard to get through there with a 15-horse. So I'm definitely in favor of the treatment. That's it.
Okay. Anybody new? Yes.
I'm Bob Chevalier. I live on 3670 Indian Lake Road. I am the one who pulled the lawyer up when I opposed the Phragmites being taken off of my property, which actually is land. It's on the edge of the lake. It was happening without my knowledge. I've since given them my email, which I got a couple emails and I don't get any more. I oppose it because of that. But it also, in the last 4 or 5 years, the weed treatment has really degraded even the West Basin now, meaning there's algae blooms. When the wind blows out of the south, it all comes out of the canal from the East Basin, blows to my lake shore, and it doesn't leave. And I don't want the weed control in there because there's so much algae bloom on the West Basin now that we've never seen. I used to ride through the little canals. I've been there 25 years. And it has degraded the west side badly. I totally agree. The east side needs something. It should be there. They need that. But I also think that septic problems are part of it. And I think there's definitely household pollutants going in that lake, even on the West Basin. I know a lot of people have their septics up on the top on what we call the roadside, which is the backyard, but yet they have walkout basements and bathrooms, and do they have grinder pumps and things to move that water? I don't think all the homes do. I think that we're definitely getting pollutants in the lake.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody new? Okay, I'll close the hearing at...
Got one more.
Was there one more? Oh, okay.
I'll let everybody else go first. Joel King, Ridgemont Road, new guy in the block, I've been there 13 years. But just a few years ago, the Eastern Basin was incredibly choked up and unusable, to the point where I was like, why do we even buy a house on this lake? I like to salute the ILA. I think they did a great job. They went out and got a new weed treatment service, a very professional organization. You watch them in the application, they are not just spewing chemicals willy-nilly. They are applying them to the weeds. They get plenty of notice. They put little signs up at your shore line telling you what was treated and how long you have to stay until what are the restrictions on water usage for what period of time. And we also have the ability to put out a red flag on our dock or on the land side, and if they see that, they will not treat on our portion of the shoreline. So I'm definitely in favor of this. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick. Eric Gatz, 210 Indian Side. It's actually in Oakland Township that I live on the lake. Just want to stand up here and show my support for the SAD as well. Aside from all the controversy with the weeds, there's a lot more involved in that. There's also the maintenance of the dam and protection of the lake values for all the homeowners on there. And that's why the SAD is important. I don't want to get into, this. The SAD is necessary because we have to pay for things that are going to keep that community, and that's the dam that's holding that water in that reservoir, and that's the lake treatment that allows us to be able to use that resource. So I'm in favor of the SAD.
Thank you. You have some letters?
Part of having a public hearing, written comments are accepted to be put into the record. So I just wanted to say I received 6, 4 of them which came in today. Mark Slade is in favor of this. Scott Baker is in favor. Peter Emling is in favor with Greta. Eric is here. Justin Gillum is in favor. And then Louis and Nancy Brown are in favor as well.
Okay, very good. Not hearing any other comments, I'm going to close the hearing at 6:40. The resolution authorizing the SAD, there's no action needed to be taken by the board here. Our job is to make sure the SAD is correct. We listened to everybody. I believe there were close to 70% that signed this that wanted the SAD. Our job is just to make sure the SAD is done properly. What you do with it is your board. You decide that. Our job only as a convenience is the collection of the SAD and dispersing of the money. So at this time, there's no action that's required by the board here concerning the hearing, but if the board would like to accept the SAD, that's just the collection of the revenue as requested. The motion would be in order to move the resolution.
And you said more, or 70% said they were in favor, 30% said they were not?
Well, yes, that's correct.
Well, I'm glad to know that, that there are MDEQ permits for this, so it seems like everything is correct.
Our only concern is the SAD at this level, the actual special assessment district. How you form and what you do with it, that's your prerogative. We are just here to, at your request, to collect the money so that you can do as you wish with it, with your thing. So a motion would be in order if we would like to accept the SAD.
One question, if I may, Mr. Supervisor, to you. With regards to some of the concerns that were raised, if it's not perfectly clear, those get taken up as an example, like questions with the DEQ, their involvement. The residents need to group together, as I understand it, and address that with the DEQ. Is that correct? Thank you.
Our concern is the SAD.
Well, Mr. Supervisor, with the understanding that our only obligation is the SAD, is to collect the money and issue out the bills, I will make that motion to accept the Lake District Special Assessment District for Indian Lake Improvement.
We have a second. Any further comment from this board on the SAD? Not hearing any, could I have roll call on that, please?
Yes. Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Eric Sant.
Yes.
John Beamer.
Aye.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes?
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, the resolution is so moved. Okay, we'll move on to 2C, which is another SAD. This is the township received a petition for a special assessment district for Millstand, a private road, signed by 50% of the record owners with 50% of the total frontage. The maintenance may include items related to snow removal, grading, dust control, and a 5% collection fee. The district is proposed to be established for 5 years at a rate of $125 per parcel. This is the first public hearing of the required 2 hearings. I'd like to open up the hearing at 6:42. If anybody has anything to state on the special assessment district for Millstand, please come forward. Again, if anybody has anything to state on the Millstand SAD. Not hearing any, I'd like to close the hearing at 6:43. Resolution authorizing the SAD. The board, once again, does not have to take action on this, but if the board would like to accept the SAD as requested by the residents, a motion is in order to move the resolution.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Any further comments?
I've got a question.
Yes.
Did you say it's 50-50? Split right down the middle?
No, 50%, more than 50% of the
more than
record.
50,
On
okay.
that one, it's actually, I think 80% or 90%.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't hear you right. Okay.
Okay. So we had a motion, and we had a second. Any further comments? Could we have roll call on that, please?
John Beamer.
Aye.
Eric Sant.
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, that resolution is so moved. We'll move on to item 3A, the fire department. Fire chief is here, yes. A, we'll start with A. Authorize the repair of a parking area at Station 2 with C&M Contracting for $11,800 from 204-304-974. Anything you got to add there, Chief?
No, you see the fire board recommended that to your body.
It says here the bids were sent out and C&M is the one that bid on it. And $11,800, that's correct? Anybody have any comments on this?
No, this seems pretty straightforward. It was in the budget. I'd like to make a motion to approve and award the bid to C&M Contracting for up to $11,800 from 204-304-974.
Support.
Any further comments? If there are no further comments, could I have roll call on that, please?
Eric Sant.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
John Beamer.
Aye.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Now, B, waive the purchasing ordinance, section 2193, which are for bids, and 2191, authorize the fire chief as purchasing agent for the expenditures relating to the kitchen update, and authorize the expenditure for fire station number 1, kitchen update and modification, up to $20,000 from 204-304-974. Well, first of all, this is one that's, I think it's 3 sections here. We're gonna have to have 3 different motions that we need to do. Chief, can you just tell us a little bit, first of all, about this kitchen?
Mr. Supervisor, we had the kitchen remodification put before the fire board about 2 months ago, and there's some issues there that wasn't addressed in the first build station. It actually did not have a hood suppression system above that, so we're going to install that and also move the gas. There's a electric stove now. We want to move that to a gas stove and move some of the appliances are in need of repair, so we're going to replace those. And with that being said, the reason why I wanted executive purchasing power on this, and it is over $20,000, there's different aspects to the job that allows me to be able to go out and purchase those as needed through that $20,000, up to the $20,000. And we're doing all the work ourselves.
Why aren't you seeking bids?
I am seeking bids with the cabinets and the appliances and the flooring. The rest of the other items, there's one item that's going through the roof for the vent system. I have one guy that I really trust that we've done some work with before in that building with a steel roof, and I would like to use that same contractor for that work.
So you're
And he's done some work for our
seeking
station.
bids, but there's no benefit to do the sealed bid process?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And this is gonna save us money.
Well, yeah, because we're not paying any labor, we're doing it all ourselves.
I like that.
And, you know, I am a building, I do have my builder's license and been done these projects before, so we're more than happy to do it at our station.
Well, I've heard you have some firefighters that are good at knocking holes through the ceiling, so.
Exactly.
I have a question, if I may, Chief. The use of the kitchen is used for what? What are the, I know to cook food.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. I understand what you're getting at. Yeah, every day, because there's guys that are there 24 hours a day. So we don't have the luxury of restaurants and things really close by. So we do use that refrigerator and the stove there in the kitchen for our meals.
In the
Preparing our meals.
The code that drives the installation of a hood and fire suppression is what, just because of the number of meals versus small amount?
No, it's just because it's a commercial building.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, if we're ready, we need one motion first to waive the purchasing ordinances, section 2191, to authorize the fire chief as purchasing agent for expenditures relating to the kitchen and increasing the agent's limit up to $20,000 for this project only, okay?
But I'll make a motion to waive the purchasing ordinance.
I'll support.
Would that be section 2191, as Bruce just read?
Can we do it all together as one motion?
2193.
Pardon?
2193.
No, it's 2191.
91. Excuse me, 9-1, okay.
Purchasing ordinance is 2193, isn't it?
That's the second one.
We have to have 3 motions, and 2 of them are going to waive the purchasing ordinance, one of which Bruce just read is concerning the purchasing agent. So we're naming him as purchasing agent, and then our ordinance says we can only spend up to 3,000 as purchasing agent, so we're also increasing the limit with this motion.
Okay, I thought they were separate motions.
Yes,
So your motion is to increase for the 2191.
as Bruce read, is that your
Correct.
motion?
Correct.
And who seconded that?
I'll second it.
Okay, and Linda seconded it. Do we have any further discussion on that one? If not, can we have roll call on that, please?
John Beamer.
Aye.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes?
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Eric Stent.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, okay, that part passes. Now, the second part is section 2193, is to waive the purchasing ordinance for sealed bids or agreements, has no benefit, but the bids must be solicited and maintained for all equipment, okay? So, that's the part that you were talking about.
Okay, I'll make that motion to waive the purchasing ordinance, section 2.2-193.
Okay.
I'll support.
Can I also ask, in the minutes for the fire board, they talked about keeping that binder,
Yes.
so you'll
I've
have all
already had
that.
most of it completed.
So that'll be your bid records.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any comments? If not, can we have roll call on that, please?
Ed Brightfield.
Yes?
Eric Stent.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
John Beamer.
No.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, okay. Now we go on to the third part, authorize the expenditure for the fire station number 1 kitchen update and modification up to $20,000 from 204-304-974-000. And we'll need a motion to spend that.
I'll make that again.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I'll support.
So we have a motion and a support. Do we have any comments on that? Not hearing any, can we have roll call on that, please?
John Beamer.
Aye.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Eric Stent.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, okay, that passes. We'll move on to item, I think, 3C now. 3C is waive purchasing ordinance and authorize the expenditure for 4 sets of turnout gear from Douglas Safety not to exceed $7,594.32 from 204-304-974-000. Can you tell us about that, Chief?
Yeah, usually we ask for about 6 sets of gear every year for just wear and tear, and actually NFPA standards say that we are not allowed to use gear after 10 years old. Unfortunately, we do kind of do that every once in a while on a few newer people, so that we're pretty much there now with maintaining a newer realm of gear, so we would like to ask only for 4 sets of gear. And the reason why we asked to waive the purchasing ordinance this time is because the gear is a specific spec, and we use that from Douglas Safety.
Okay. Well, we'll need 2 motions on this. One, first of all, to waive the purchasing ordinance as Douglas is the sole provider, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make
So-
that
Go ahead, Lori.
motion.
So you made the motion? Who seconded it?
I'll support it.
And Eric seconded. Any comments on that? Not hearing any, can I have roll call on that, please?
Ed Brightfield.
Yes?
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Eric Stent.
Yes.
John Beamer.
Aye.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that part passed. Now we need a motion to authorize the expenditure for 4 sets of turnout gear from the Douglas Safety not to exceed $7,594.32.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second on that? Any further comments? Not hearing any, can I have roll call, please?
Eric Stent.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
John Beamer.
Aye.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. That passes. Okay, Chief, that's it. Boy, you keep me busy, you know that?
We missed a month.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, resolution in opposing the tax, to taxing the local government residents for the RTA, which is the Rapid Transit Authority millage. As you know, it's going to be on the ballot here in November, a Rapid Transit Authority. I think it's 1.2 mills, going to be added to everybody in Oakland County. It's a several county-wide operation. The closest it's going to get is M59. It's not coming up to us. We have our own very good North Oakland Transportation Authority that meets our personal needs for our seniors and our people with disabilities here. As far as we're concerned, it doesn't really help us. I've talked to the other township supervisors. I had meetings with them today. The whole northern tier, the OCATS, which is the Oakland County Association of Township Supervisors, also have a resolution opposing this because for most townships this doesn't benefit us. It benefits, I guess, Detroit and most of the cities to the south of us. Anybody have any comments on this?
Just from reading their proposal, I guess, I found a lot of things that made me uncomfortable in support of this resolution. Just similar to this is our backing out of SEMTA. So there's some precedents there that I hope carries the township. Did we get any feedback other than from our legal staff on this resolution and its ability to keep us from this taxation if it was approved?
The vote of the people is what's going to determine whether.
This is all in or none.
On a county basis.
On a county basis, it is.
And so there is no opt-out clause. We cannot opt out from this.
So what is the purpose of this when we're asking to be opted out? I don't understand that.
I think the resolution stating that we're against it because there is no opt-out, and then we're going to forward this resolution to the other communities. I also have a few phone calls into RTA, and they have responded, we just haven't connected. And my whole thing on the resolution is I'm not against the mass transit system, but I am against us paying for something that we're not going to use or have that benefit from for the next 20 years. So if they want to build it, the communities that are going to benefit from it should be paying for it, not us. We already have one. We're going to end up paying for 2, and we really can't afford to pay for 2.
I think so.
Yeah, I know.
They're putting a rail system from Detroit to Ann Arbor. I don't know where it's going to stop that I can get on it, but...
I believe
just
Eric's
another
going to
comment.
attend
Is there?
the meeting. Eric, are you going to attend that meeting?
Yeah, I'm going to attend the meeting with the RTA this Wednesday in Berkeley to make sure that we're represented and make our feelings known.
Well, it looks like from our township standpoint, I think over the 20-year millage, it's going to, I think, take out, what is it, $7,897,940 out of our township alone.
That's only based on 216 property tax.
Yeah, so you're,
I think that our job is to look after our residents and our township, and I'd certainly like to help out Detroit and everybody else, but our first priority, I think, is to make sure that our tax dollars stay in our community. So,
Well, for an example, for the people who are here, Lori worked out the numbers, which thank you very much, but for NOTA for 1 year, it's going to come out to $98,270. 1 year based at the 216 for the RTA is $394,000. So the difference is huge between the two.
The big difference, too, is if you're not familiar with NOTA, if a senior or disabled person calls and needs a ride someplace, they come to their house and picks up. This obviously is for transportation, buses. Nobody's going to come to your house and pick you up for this. NOTA does offer that service, and that's irreplaceable.
The proposal stops at 59, but anyways,
so with all that being said, most of the northern part of all of Oakland County has no benefit to this. And Oakland County, there's an awful lot of money that's going to be sent to this regional authority. So My thing is, I think a motion's in order if we would like to move this resolution.
I'd be really happy to make that motion
Go
to
page 2.
oppose.
Second that as well.
So we have a motion to move the resolution. We have a second. Any further comments? I'd like,
My only other comment to that, Mr. Supervisor, is that I also inquired to the RTA with some questions and through their website and received no answers. Okay, so they're unresponsive in that regard.
well, this has been a topic of conversation with the supervisors in all of Oakland County. We have contacted each other, and we have sent our representatives to the meetings, and it definitely is not in our favor to be part of this. So, not hearing any other comments on this, could I have roll call, please?
Ed Brakefield.
Yes?
Eric Sent.
Yes.
Roy Fisher.
Yes.
John Beamer.
Aye.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, the resolution is so moved. Item number 5, draft revisions for the ordinance, Article 5, the finance. This is something the board asked us to revise and bring back for discussion. I think it reads well. It creates a third layer of expenditures where it had to come before the board, but not for the sealed bids. As you know, I had a limit of $3,000 to spend on certain things and $1,000 on minor things. I had to get out and get sealed, or just bids for the $3,000 ones. The $1,000 I also had to go out and just solicit to get the cheapest price. As you know, I believe I've done a very good job on this as far as making sure that we spend our money wisely. The board did come up and say that it's time because of inflation and how many years we've been at that other figure that I think it was Ed brought up the issue that he would like to have these figures raised, that have them between $3,000 and $10,000, that we must solicit bids for agreement and allow me to do that up to $10,000. Is that correct?
I've got a comment about that.
Yes.
Have you ever saw anybody squeeze water out of a rock? This guy can do it. But the problem is, when we were building the building, Bruce's hands were so tied that he had to keep coming back to this board for approval. We got to get this, and I brought it to Bruce. Can't you just raise the thing so you can, he's going to be as fair as you can get. I've never seen anybody more frugal than Bruce Pearson. So, yeah, I brought it to you, and I think it's a great idea that we raise it.
And like we said, with the fire chief, he still has to come to me if he's going to do any of these large projects, and so there's still the catch there. And I understand what you're saying, and I am very frugal. I'll stay neutral on this because I know that I think I've done a very good job at spending the township's money very frugally, and I will leave this up to you. If you want to leave, my limit is $1,000 and then $3,000, and then anything over $3,000, then I come to the board. But we have it, I think Ed suggested up to $3,000 for expenditures that I can approve once I've looked into them frugally, and up to $10,000. Is that correct for the limit?
That's what you and I talked to you about.
And that's up to the board, and I'll leave this up for discussion. Would anybody like to
Are we,
state
I
something?
know what we're talking in general about the change, but are we talking about a specific section right now or the document in totality here? Are we talking about section 2.191?
This is in
the
the,
purchasing agent.
yeah.
And I'm reading it that the supervisor has up to $10,000 as written, but anything between $3,000 and $10,000, he must solicit bids. Anything under $3,000, it's at his discretion. So that's the number one change, is the purchasing agent is increased up to $10,000. The second change, we actually put in a whole new stepping stone, so that purchases between 10 and 20 must come back to the board for approval. And then anything over 20 goes for sealed bids.
There's, unless we name, and none of these comments are directed at anybody, they're directed at the document and just governance here, but unless the supervisor, between the 10 and 20,000, we're talking about section 2.192, right? There's, I think, some clarity to that language that could be added. I think that's the section I had, is that you put a time limit on that, because we have where to me it reads to where a supervisor could be named to act as purchasing agent, and there's no end to that potentially.
Yes.
So I'm thinking to make sure there's just closure to those things. I know we've tied, as an example, to this kitchen project right now, to the project. And when we talked about this when we were building the hall, we talked about doing something just for the hall, right? So I think some language in there that says if the supervisor is named to be purchasing agent, or right, that have a term to it of for no more than a period of time. My suggestion would be 90 days be considered, at which time if it comes to an end, that it's all defaults back to the board. Do you follow what I'm saying there?
Yes and no. Currently, we have an ordinance that says we as a board by resolution can authorize a supervisor to be the purchasing agent.
Correct.
So 191 doesn't change that whatsoever. We, the board, would authorize a supervisor to do so.
Right. I'm on 192.
192, on the very top line, says that this purchase between 10 and less than 20 must come to the township board. The supervisor, as purchasing agent, has no authority to expend anything above $10,000. This is the new section of the ordinance, because everybody's saying that we don't like to do sealed bids too much, but at the same time, we want to make sure the board's involved. So this section, 10 to 20, comes back to you.
And I'm reading now, my note that I wrote myself is on 191.
191.
For that 90-day period if we defaulted to the supervisor.
And I don't understand that one, because then every 90 days we'd be coming back to the township board saying, can we renew the supervisor's role as purchasing agent?
Township board shall act as the purchasing agent for the township, and if it so desires, by resolution, may designate the supervisor to act as the purchasing agent.
And that's what we have now. We have a resolution on file stating that the supervisor is the acting purchasing agent, but currently his limit is 3,000.
Yeah, and we're going to take that up to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then we put a little bit more restrictions, since we increased it to 10, we put a little bit more restrictions stating that the supervisor as purchasing agent, between 3,000 and 10,000, he must solicit bids.
But not necessarily close bids.
Correct. 3 competitive bids, and it lists how he can do those. Could be written, could be phone call, he has to solicit at least 3 bids.
And then those purchases, even if after the fact, the supervisor would have to come before the board and discuss those? If they're between or not? I don't see that.
If they're between 3 and 10?
No.
Yeah.
That's something that I wanted to suggest, if all of those bids is part of this ordinance that the trustees or the board receive copies of. I think that would be something
So
that...
anything above 3,000?
Anything between, above 3. And the other thing that, if I'm understanding this correctly, is anything really under 10,000 doesn't have to be sealed. We're relaxing that portion of it, which I think is a good idea.
Anything under 20,000?
I'm sorry, under 20, yes, that's what I meant to say. But no, I think it would be a good idea, just going forward, to have that in the ordinance, that there is a fiscal responsibility of the board to see the expenditures, and by at least just as a copy be given to the board. I mean, we can see it in the register, I'm sorry,
Are you
Lori.
saying
Right, you
all
could
the
see it
bids?
in the bill run, but you wouldn't see the bid. So you just want a copy of the bids,
Of
and you
the
want me to
bids.
insert that in there, that the
I
purchasing
think it would be a
agent
good idea going forward.
Just forward a copy of the
You know,
bids. Okay.
Bruce wants to brag, he'll have documents, you know?
I'm fine, I'm staying neutral. I mean, you know where I stand on spending money, and it doesn't make it easier for me, but I have done, most of the purchasing is done with now, I mean, in the township, so.
But yeah, and in my comments, I wanted to make sure they were clear, to the document and to the future boards, when we're gone, I'm just talking good governance is where my questions are going. Certainly, please don't take any as you sit on the bench there, personal, because that's not where they're directed. It's just, as trustees, fiduciary responsibility is mine, and the other trustees as well. So that's why I'm asking the questions the way I am, and trying to get, I guess what I would say is prudent checks and balances in there from the standpoint of money, because if the board isn't seeing expenditures of $9,999 just flying out the door, other than what I'll say in the monthly accounting sheet, that's concerning to me, and a lot of money can disappear, and has in other townships, in the past, and that's how all of a sudden, geez, they're bankrupt, and did you see what he's driving, or whatever those things go, So that's why I'm trying to create where it's I guess you would say transparent, right, to the board.
Let me ask you a question. Would it make the board feel better if I also worked in the line, other than what Linda said, within the approved budget? So it's 10,000, but it also has to be within the approved budget by the board.
You would hope that would be the case, but yes.
Would you like me to add that? Okay.
And I think, from my standpoint, I'd like to see them and know what expenses are going on in that regard. And is there a way?
That you get monthly.
Okay, on a monthly basis, other than in our expenditures and.
So just to say, just for clarity, I mean, we don't know what you need to buy a bag of mulch or a dozen bags of mulch up to $3,000. That's, I mean, really, what's the difference? I mean, if it's, we don't really get specific information all the time about that, and I think we would have more, because now we're between that 3 and 10, and we're actually getting that information. So I think we're probably going to be more informed.
How are we getting it?
Somebody wants me to add that
Through the bid?
board is to see copies of all the bids.
Right.
So I'm going to work that into 191.
Would that be after the fact or before the supervisor
Well, that
purchases
would be at their discretion. It
I'm
depends on
okay
the
before or
situation.
after myself, but I hear your point. I mean, I just think it's good that the board, future board, present board understands where that kind of money's going.
Well, from 0 to 3, there's really not much information, right?
I agree.
So now from 3 to 10, we don't have to say, gee, we needed to get a lawnmower wagon or something that cost $3,100, and it was an emergency to tow that tree out of the way. It gives you, I think, more information.
By
than we
getting a
had
copy
before.
of the bid or knowing that the expense was made? I'm not following, I'm sorry.
I didn't understand your question.
You need a sound system? No, I'm not quite following what you're saying with regards to how we get notified. I thought we said, or we're talking here and discussing, that if there was an expenditure between $3,000 and $10,000 and the supervisor issued a bid spec, that we would get a copy of that bid spec. I thought, Linda, that's what you proposed.
No, I was saying, not so, I guess the bid spec, is that the right word? I mean, what process would the supervisor, I need an item for an example of something that you may need to buy.
Yes, we're going to probably be looking at a new server in the next year. So that's a perfect example
server.
because I think it's going to be over 3,000.
That research.
So do you want a bid spec? Do you want to know what we're planning on buying? Or do you want to know that we did our homework and we priced out 3 servers?
I just
3
want to
different
know that we
companies,
spent it and where we spent it.
and it didn't come from like Fisher Computer Services.
Whatever, yeah, like we kind of bought that, rather than it, again, just kind of being in here, it would be good to know that, yeah, this month we bought a computer server from Allied, forget Fisher. You know, kind of thing. And I think that,
after the
how do we
fact
do
is
that? I don't know, but I just think it's
Well,
it's
and
good
that's
to
something that we
understand.
normally do when we shop for computers. You know, we look at several different places, so
Yeah, how do
they're
we come
printed out
back to the
anyway,
board?
so it's easy to just, you know, put those copies in the board pack. And especially something that's pricier, over 3,000.
Yeah, so from that 3 to 10, if we could add some language to where the board, a flag goes up, if you will, that money was spent. And it's not without obstructing business, so to speak.
As it's written, it's 3 to 10 requires a written contract. So that's going to be available if you want it. And then they go out for bids as well. So I think it is important to know, do you want both ends? Do you want one? Do you want to know before? You want to know after?
I had suggested seeing copies of the bids previously.
Correct.
So I don't know if that translates into doing the homework or an announcement of what's spent. I think that's in the report that we get anyway. But I thought having copies of the bids, evidence of the research that's done. We're not doing sealed bids on it, so, you know, how do you figure out what's the best price? You've got a spec, you know you need a server, this is who you contacted. I mean, sometimes if you're putting out, you know, a request for something, when they see township, all of a sudden the price goes up. And especially on those sealed bids, so it's actually gives us a better opportunity to get better prices, to do it this way, so I think it's a good idea.
Can we kind of get a consensus? Are we going to go with Linda's idea of board to see copies of the bids and I'll work that language in there? Is that what we want?
Say it one more time, because I have.
From what I'm hearing from Linda, she would like to see copies. So let's say if Bruce is going to go out, he creates a contract, he creates the specs, and then he's going to solicit bids. Linda wants to see a copy of the bids that Bruce was able to solicit. Is that what the board members want?
My only comment to that's good, is that a contract may not always be necessary if you're making a flat-out purchase. It just kind of becomes a spec. Like maybe a server would qualify as that example, or I need it'd be a lot of expensive mulch, but I need aggregate or some paving or something, so it just becomes.
It would be very simple, but this is saying a simple, it's saying an agreement in writing.
Something
So they're
for a
going to
certain-
have to, between 3 and 10, get something in writing from the person.
Even if that's the invoice, if you will, that details what it's bought, that's a contract, right? So that would, in my mind,
Yes.
for my satisfaction, fill that.
Well, I'm supportive of that, but you know, we have checks and balances now on a monthly basis. We know exactly where the money's being spent. So this is just more detail on that?
We're thinking going forward, another board in the future, you know, that we're not just leaving this all
Well,
open.
you know, as long as it's in the budget and it's being reported monthly as an expenditure, we're on top of it. That's my.
You see, I don't wear any gold or anything. The next supervisor, if he shows up with gold and everything and there's expenditures, then I would be
In essence,
concerned.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, no.
Hey, it's in here.
Yeah.
Every dime we spend, every penny we spend is in here. I'm only saying that it would be good to red flag some of those expenditures from that 3 to 10, because it's all going down to, in this case, the purchasing agent / supervisor in the future. So it would just be transparent, as more transparent
I
as that could
agree
be
with, yeah, I
than
agree
this.
with that too, so. you
Well,
know,
now
kind of
the chief
twofold.
just to say one
Can I just
word.
have- Linda, you hit it on the head really right now. Bruce and I do a lot of bid soliciting as well. And I think, Linda, you hit it on the head about government. As soon as you find out, and I've already did this with the kitchen project, I've done some soliciting for different projects, flooring. I found the flooring for $1,500 cheaper from the actual distributor than the person that was gonna sell it to me, told me he was giving me a good deal because I was the township. And they thought you had an endless pit of money and you have to do a little bit of homework. So showing that homework sometimes could just be jotting numbers down on a piece of paper with some phone numbers that you've called and talked to. And you know, with the money being so low right now, the amount of money is hurting us. It's costing us money to keep that number down and coming to the board with newspapers and closed bids, sealed bids, having somebody here. There's a lot behind sealed bids at that amount of money. It really is hurting us moving forward quickly. I know government moves a little slower, and we should have that checks and balances in place that helps us out. I agree with that 100%. I'm above that. I agree with that 100%. But sometimes it is hurting us, and it is hurting us more and more and more with that lower amount. Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, having heard that, okay, it really, I would be supportive of increasing the value as you proposed, okay? And monthly, we see it.
How do we see
Okay? In the report, the monthly expenditures, and to put some flags up, when some paperwork is available, like an invoice, that's fine. But let's go on with it. We can always change back. We can always lower it again, correct?
When the next supervisor comes in, I'm
Yeah.
sure the next board may have to put him
Yeah.
on a budget.
Would you agree with that? I mean, this isn't written in stone. It's gonna be here for the next.
I agree. I don't know if that came to a vote where I would agree with it in that context without going one step on more beyond here. Just, again, if I said an invoice could be proof of contract, I'm not looking for that negotiation side of it as much as I'm looking for us to know that the expense was made. A little different than some of the things that have been said here, but that's clear, right?
Okay.
So the supervisor spent, $6,000 and bought this month. And all we need is that invoice that he spent that, and that's what we see. And I'm looking for,
Supervisor's report, is that what you're suggesting?
pardon me,
A supervisor's report?
that would be great or somewhere, yeah.
Or what
It's
is,
not gonna be that much, I don't think.
no, that's what, so I had thought just to include that as backup paperwork in case anybody in the future wanted to see, oh, look, he bought this, that, and the other thing. I didn't think it was enough to say, it needs to be in a report. But maybe that would be at the discretion of the
That'd be a
board.
great line item, as you
How
said.
they wanted to handle it. They want to know all the expenditures in a monthly report versus just having the paper. I don't know.
But that is a report.
It is, but does it need to be a verbal report that we put in the minutes?
I think if you just suggested that part of the supervisor's report, that in the $3,000 to $10,000 expenditures this month were blank, blank, and blank, and we know we have the record back at the township that somebody can question or learn more. That certainly would satisfy my need, but.
But you guys know where this all came from, didn't it? With the senior fireplace, Bruce had to come to us. It was there, all he had to do was buy the blooming thing, but he had to come back to us, get permission. The hot water heater was over his amount.
Oh, yeah.
He had to come to us, can I get a hot water heater? Of course you can, Bruce, okay, good. And I told Bruce, I said, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Every month he got put up,
What? Okay,
but he would've wrote it down, had to buy a hot water heater at, I'll say, $7,000, had to buy this, and he had to do this, and then turn it in as a supervisor's report, saying we bought that.
I think we came from a lot of different directions, had some good input, but I think we're basically all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Those items, when we were doing them, I was buying those ourselves. I was getting the wholesale prices, and I was going down on my truck and picking up the hot water tank.
Yeah.
We put that in ourselves. We did the fireplace ourselves. We saved a lot of money, but I had to keep coming back to be able to save that money.
And we want to continue that kind of practice, so therefore, I would be supportive. I'd like to make a motion that we raise this we raised the ceiling as proposed, with the addition to the notification that we just talked about to everybody on the board.
Should it be written or verbal notification?
I would say written, because,
okay.
Someone in the future, I say a year from now, could come back and say, oh, Bruce spent this money without authorization.
All right.
And you'd have it in writing right there. No, he didn't. Here it is.
I'll say written. Written notification.
Now, may I ask, does this have to come back for a public hearing?
No, I was waiting for the second, then I was going to start asking a few questions.
We have a motion.
Yep.
I'll second it.
I'm not done with my questions.
Okay, so I have, go ahead, John, and then I have some.
Because I thought we were only talking about a couple specific, so if I may, please indulge me, but on the back, disposal of surplus property, I think opening up that, again, I have, I guess, I don't know, maybe the board can, how much property do we dispose of and the value of that? We're raising,
It was 500, so I just increased it to 1,000. And then the, how would you say, the actually procedure was slightly updated.
yeah, so how does the board find out about the disposal of property? That certainly doesn't show up in our,
It says the last line, says the purchasing officer shall update the board of the sale at the next regular scheduled meeting.
purchasing officer shall update.
And that's why that line's in there, because you don't.
I'm good with
see the
that.
report. But over here, in the purchasing, there is already a report, so that wasn't in there.
I'm good with that.
So that last sentence could be in 191.
Yes. I'll just cut and paste and put that last sentence in.
Yeah, that'll work.
So as far as updating a practice or a procedure, we still need to work that out. Like whether it's written or we get copies of things, so the purchasing agent is required to update the board, whether they give us copies of bids or whether they include it in the supervisor's report. Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm kind of thinking, now that the motion is out there, it seems like everybody's okay with the amended ordinance, and then if everybody would look in 2-191, the township board shall adopt by resolution any necessary rules respecting requisitions and purchase orders. So what I'm thinking is, after hearing some of the concerns, is when we adopt a ordinance, it has to be done by resolution, so maybe next month we come back with a draft resolution giving ideas of how the purchasing officer is going to meet the two items that was just said. And then my other question is Eric made a motion to move this forward with a second. All ordinances must have a public notice. Are we ready to put this out for public notice, or shall we come back next month with a resolution and the minor changes that the board said tonight and discuss it one more time? I need to know where we're at with that too.
I would prefer if it came back next month with as it would go to press, so to speak, unless there's some urgency to move it faster that I'm unaware of.
That's why I'm asking,
I'll
what's the
agree.
board's pleasure?
I'll agree with John. Bring it back.
We'd have to rescind that motion.
I think he could make another, either way, that's fine. Okay. So you're gonna reiterate it to?
To bring it back next meeting? Yep.
Okay, so do we have a second on the amended?
Yeah, we do.
We do?
John.
We need a vote on that? All just in favor of aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone in favor, say aye. Aye? Anybody opposed? Okay, it'll be brought back then as a resolution.
I've got one more brief comment, and I'll try to make it brief. A lot of the things that went into this building, Bruce wrote a check out of his own bank account just to get it moving. A lot of things. The wood you see, I believe you bought all the wood, didn't you, Bruce? The molding? Did you go out and buy the molding or something you bought out of your own pocket?
Well, I can wheel and deal if you let me loose, okay? And we wheeled and dealed, and a lot of people gave us the donations. And sometimes when they gave us the donations, they said, well, I need this and this and this on Saturday morning here, so I can do your several $1,000 donation for free, but I need these. So I would get those things ahead of time, and then, for a small amount of material, we got the labor donated and stuff. But yeah, but we did it very efficiently here.
So we were pretty smart to do this after the building's done.
This thing here is wheeling and dealing. This is a gift from Oxford Township to Bruce for our board, so.
Well, this, like we said, the prisoners helped me get this out of the old Township Hall from Oxford Township, and Bill Dunn was very gracious in giving it to us. We cut it down, we revamped it. Lori did all the nice marbling, to the tune of $79. Just so you know. So something like this was originally would have cost us $15,000, but it cost us some lunches for some prisoners and $79 and
Lori.
And Lori, yes.
You're still wheeling for those microphones, right?
I have, we're working on that now.
We've got a collection cup at the door when we leave.
Our architects wanted to put us up on
But we spent many weekends here.
There's a trip hazard here.
But anyways, I understand John's concerns. It's my same concern. I will say I'm a very conservative, and I can wheel and deal, and I know I saved the township a lot of money. I am concerned that someday in the future, there may be somebody who doesn't have that same ability and doesn't know, and I know a lot of people that can't balance their own checkbooks, so why would you let them loose on trying to balance somebody else's checkbook? So I understand that, but there is a time and a place where a supervisor needs to act sometimes. When you need to do it, you need to do it. Like when they were clearing the trees, they had the equipment here, everything. We wanted a little extra done, we had to do it in an emergency basis. It worked out well, and we saved a lot of money that way, so. Okay, so we're all set on that. We'll move on to the public forum. Anybody in public forum? Anybody would like to speak in public forum?
I have a comment, if I may.
We're on township?
Public forum, as a citizen.
Well, you're at township board report. Oh, okay.
If that's on board report, I can wait.
Okay, well, I'll give you an opportunity. If there's no public forum, this is for the public. Okay, now we'll go to Addison Township Board reports. Anybody on the board who would like to report?
I just, this edge out here at the end of the parking lot, can we put a visual barrier there that there's a cliff ahead, or?
Well, I have, just speaking of that, I happen to get all the boulders donated, okay?
Okay.
Didn't cost you a thing, and they're gonna be delivered for free, and they are huge boulders. They, you can see them right at the corner here.
Oh, okay.
From Mill Mine Hall, those great big boulders. Mike is donating those.
Beautiful.
I just don't wanna put them in until I can get the sledding hill sculpted.
So so there, I don't know what could be, I don't know how long all that transpires, but every day is a
If
potential.
my mother was still driving, I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
Because I know her. But right now, I'm hoping that, I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm waiting for more dirt trucks to show up, and I need the bulldozer to get around, and once that's sculpted, that will be where I hope that the outdoor fireplace will be.
In the interim, I would suggest some orange cones.
Well, we could do
I mean, I
that.
would
or-
authorize the
or-
supervisor to purchase those. Or get them donated, better yet.
Or maybe I could get a trustee out there with a sign that says, "Stop," and then slow on the other side.
That would work.
I agree with you on that.
So the boulders were a Saturday negotiation, correct?
Pardon?
That was true.
The boulders were a Saturday negotiation?
Well, that's at my office hours from 5 to 9 at Louis, yes. And, anyways, anything else on Addison Township Board reports? Legal reports, we don't have any. Communications, we don't have any. Supervisor report, I only got a couple things to add. I did contact the road commissioner, Eric Wilson. He said he would love to meet with John, Ed, and I about the bike paths. He would have a special meeting. He would bring up the road commission people to our township at a restaurant or meet here or whatever we would like. You guys just have to tell me if you're available a day so we can sit down and talk with him. Eric Wilson said that he would love to come and talk to us about it, and I've talked to him till I'm blue in the face, but he would like to bring the road show here and talk to us. So if you guys can get with me and tell me what days are available, I will set up a meeting so we can all meet with them concerning bike paths and walkability. The chloriding on the roads seems to be really helping. On some of the roads that have never had chloride before, they're holding together. And even with this dry weather, I see a big improvement. So I hope that's just the first application, so I'm hoping that we have 3 more applications this year. I'm hoping that's saving the residents money and saving our roads. I do have almost 2 miles of new gravel coming, and I'm trying to determine where we're going to put the 2 miles of gravel, and those will be chlorided at the county's expense when that gravel comes. The price did go way up this year, so I'm glad that we had the forethought back in 2009, 10, 11, when we spent and did 42 miles of gravel road, because now the price is almost doubled. So we are way ahead of the curve, and like my mother always said, you buy it when nobody else wants it, and then when everybody wants it, of course the price goes up. So anyways, the other thing is the chief did sell 2 items. The stove that we had, the old stove and the steam table, he put that on eBay for us, and those 2 items were sold, and so I'm letting you know about that. The other thing I was just going to ask, the Phragmites. We do have an opportunity if we wish to join some of the other townships. I've been waiting to see how it's been working. They're starting to work some of the problems out. They get money through grants through the DNR. The road commission is now putting them on the road. The problem is that when they sprayed them, then the only time you can spray Phragmites is when they're retreating after they've gone up. You have to spray them then, and then as the plant retreats, I've had a lot of classes on this now, as it retreats, it goes into the roots and kills the roots. The road commission didn't understand that at first, and so when they sprayed them, then they came along with the cutter and cut them down, and of course it didn't retreat in there, so they've got those bugs worked out now. If we would like to move forward with getting some grants through SISMA, that's a group of all the townships and the cities and everything that have combine their efforts. I can start looking into that if we wish. My problem was if we just do the shoulders of the roads and we don't do the people right across the street or whatever, are we really getting ahead of it, you know? So in our park we do have some Phragmites now. I was thinking maybe this board, I'll bring it up the next time. I do have a company that does it. I was going to do a test pattern, do maybe 5 acres up in our park, see how it works, and then see if we want to invest in some of these grants. So that's just something, food for thought for tonight, and then I can put it on next month's agenda or whatever, and we can decide. But my thing is that in Orion Township, they're now, I believe, hitting up the residents where they have to spray their Phragmites and everything. Okay, but that's like putting another tax on people. But you can't do it on one side of the road and not the other side of the road, so it's an issue we might want to talk about. So other than that, I have nothing else as far as the supervisor's report. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Can I ask one question?
Oh.
Yes.
Shouldn't take long. I noticed our power transmission company put some fences up with regards to no trespassing, no hunting under the power lines in some places.
Oh, that's, you're talking about...
Maybe 32 Mile Road?
ITC, yeah.
Yeah.
ITC, those have always been no trespassing, and I think they had a lawsuit with somebody getting hurt, not in our area, but another area, and those are not to be, that is their right of way.
Leases that.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
The deputy sheriffs would have to. There is a note, if it's posted, and then the deputy sheriff should be enforcing that.
We've got some playhouses up on stilts in certain areas in that easement.
They are not supposed to be there. ITC, I've been to their headquarters, they invited to me, if you want to see Fort Knox, you'll go see the ITC headquarters down in Novi. It's like Fort Knox. You have to go in with a senator or a representative, and then the security clearance to get in there. It's like a railroad station. You see everything, and it controls the electricity for the whole state out of there. And you can see how they take electricity from one state to another during demands. It's quite impressive. But they are, under federal law, they have to maintain that. If they don't, they get fined, okay? Because, as you know, when we had that big blackout, it was some bird or something, or some tree that touched 2 wires down Ohio, and the whole 5-6 state area went out. So now they clear that, and they get fined if they don't. That's why those are there.
So anybody drinking a Pepsi up on the control panel?
No. I didn't see that. But, okay. Did we go through the adjournment?
We have a motion?
A motion, second? Okay, everyone in favor, say aye. Aye. We are now adjourned. July 18th is our next meeting, 6 PM. Thank you very much.
Thank you.